Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Crow. I'm the financial education specialist here in the Financial Empowerment Department at Summit Credit Union. We are so excited to host this session today, Building Savings Through Energy Efficiency. We have a very special guest today. She's been a friend of our Summit webinars for quite a while. This is Kathy Kuntz. She is the director of the Dane County Office for Energy and Climate Change here in Madison, Wisconsin. She leads those climate change efforts across Dane County. Now, this is super interesting. In 2020, Dane County issued a climate change action plan, and they've been working really, really hard to be able to work with partners across the county to reduce emissions by half by 2030. That is amazing, Kathy. She has 30 years of experience implementing programs that focus on energy efficiency. She is the expert. And prior to joining Dane County, Kathy actually led the Cool Choices program, which is a not-for-profit for businesses and local governments to help with sustainable practices. So, Kathy, thank you so much for being here today. You have shared your slide deck that we can send it to folks after the fact, which is fantastic. And take it away. I'm excited to learn all about the new changes that you have to share with us.
Thanks so much, Amy. It's always a pleasure to get to hang out with the Summit Credit Union folks and talk about energy savings. So as Amy said, I'm with the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change. Essentially, the county exec created our office in 2017 to lead on climate action locally. So we spent about the first 3 years of our existence writing that climate action plan that Amy talked about. And since then, we're laser focused on implementing it because 2030 will be here before you know it. So really a big thing for us is how do we make it easier for people to make smart energy and climate decisions? And that's going to be kind of the theme of what I talk about today. I'm going to try to give you some really concrete ways to be smart about your energy usage. Wasting energy just straight up is wasting money. I don't think any of us would drive down the road throwing dollar bills out the window of our car, but sometimes we do things in our homes that are equivalent to that are wasting energy. So just like it's a good from a financial perspective to know where you're spending your money, it's good to know where your energy is going because it's your money. Is it going to heating and cooling? Is it going to appliances that are always on? And then we'll talk a fair amount about how you take advantage of opportunities that will help pay for upgrades and make your home both more comfortable and cheaper to operate. So let's get rolling. The place I like to start in these conversations is really talking about the big efficiency opportunity that we don't think about very much. And this is the insulation and air sealing of our homes. So that picture on the left is a typical house, and what you're seeing with those arrows going in and out is air and heat leaking out of the house and cold air coming in, kind of thing. And on the right is an article from Minnesota. So about 5 years ago now, the city of Minneapolis instituted a new ordinance where anytime a house goes up for sale, it has to have an energy audit. And after that was in place for about 3 years, this reporter looked at all of those audits and was stunned to see that 2/3 of the homes for sale in Minneapolis didn't have enough insulation in them. What I want you to know is that's true here in Dane County. It's true across Wisconsin too. That partly because a whole lot of our homes were built before we even had standards about insulating, a lot of our homes do not have enough insulation or air sealing. We don't realize this because if you've lived in drafty old homes in Wisconsin your whole life, it kind of seems like that's how houses work. But it doesn't have to be how houses work. And so the first thing I really want you to think about is that kind of piece about how houses work. So this is my little short list of things that might indicate that your house might not be as energy efficient as you would like. If some floors or rooms are a lot warmer or cooler than others, That suggests there could be some opportunities. If you have windows that frost up in the winter, or this is my favorite. Okay, so I'm an energy geek. So when the first snow happens, I drive down streets and I can look at the roofs of houses and tell which houses don't have enough insulation. Because if the snow melts off your roof twice as fast as your next door neighbor, they have more insulation than you. Heat is escaping through your roof. You're essentially heating the whole outdoors while they are not. Ditto on icicles. Icicles hanging there suggest the snow is melting off your roof because it's too warm. The other way, if you're a data person, in our area of the state, both MG&E and Alliant Energy have resources on their websites that actually let you kind of look at how your house compares to other houses in your neighborhood. And I'm going to show you an example here. So I pulled the exact addresses off of this. This is off the MG&E website. So this is a house, and it's telling me both for the electric meter and the gas meter, the highest bill for the last 12 months, the lowest, and the average. So this is one house. This is another house, like next door to that first one. So you notice that the electric average is pretty close to the same. The gas low is the same. So we use the least amount of natural gas in summer months when all we're doing is heating water to take showers. I look at these houses and go, yeah, they're pretty similar. But then look at the high usage. So this first house used less than 150 therms in the month they were heating the most. The other house used 233 therms. Similarly, this first house used less electricity in their high month compared to the other one. When I look at those, I go, this second house needs more insulation and air sealing because they're using more energy to heat and cool their house than their neighbor. It's in a pretty similar house typically. So you can go on there and do a little sleuthing. And, sometimes you need to do that sleuthing to justify that next step, which is to get an energy audit. An energy audit means you're having a professional, someone trained in building science, come out and spend time in your house and test things. So one of the first things they're going to test is how fast the warm or in the summer, the cool air inside your house leaks out. They do that with this contraption you see here, this big red. Essentially, they put a giant fan on one of your doors and pull air out of your house and see how fast it replenishes itself. So I will confess, the first house I ever owned in Madison, when they turned the blower door on, it was a story and a half, and it had these cute little knee walls upstairs, where the ceiling was arched. And when my energy auditor turned on the blower door, those knee walls all flew open because the air was coming in so fast through all the unsealed and uninsulated places in that little house. There's a lot of good work we could do there. I didn't know there was a problem with that until I saw the energy audit helping me understand that. So other things an auditor can do is they are going to test the way your gas appliances work to verify that there is no carbon monoxide or other pollutants leaking back into your living space. They're going to be able to tell you how much money you can save with particular kinds of upgrades. And if one of those issues for you is, well, we have this room or couple rooms in our house that we can only use certain times of the year because they're uncomfortable other times. They're going to help you figure out what would it take to fix that. So really, the audit is sort of the roadmap to doing everything forward. And a big part of course, what I've been saying is this insulation and air sealing, and it's really important that you do both. So insulation is putting that kind of thermal blanket in your walls and in the attic to keep the heated air or the cooled air inside your house. It's really important to do air sealing though too. If you think about when we build a house, we have to put pipes through the floors, and we cut square boxes and then we put a round metal pipe in those places. And if we don't air seal around it, we leave these holes that heated air can escape from one floor to another, or in the attic can escape right out of the attic. The best analysis I've seen of this is that the typical home in Wisconsin has air sealing opportunities that if all those holes were in one place, it would be about the size of a basketball. So think about, there's a basketball of holes potentially in your house leaking your heated air to the outside. That's not what we want. When you do this work, I'm going to keep talking about focus on energy and qualified contractors, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end when I go to their website. But you, to qualify for the incentives I talk about, you want to make sure you're using someone who has been trained and verified by the program. So that was the kind of what you do to the shell, the heating and the insulation and air sealing. Then let's talk a little bit about heating and cooling. And the hot topic in Wisconsin these days is heat pumps. Heat pumps sound like a thing you don't know, but in reality, your air conditioner is a one-way heat pump. Your refrigerator is a one-way heat pump. Heat pumps are appliances that can take ambient air and run it through a compressor and either make it a lot warmer or a lot colder. So your air conditioner can do that one way. It takes hot air outside and makes it cool, pushes cool air in. If it were a heat pump, it could do that, but it could also do it in reverse. It could take cold air outside, run it the other way through the compressor, and push warm air in. Nothing fancier than that when we talk about heat pumps. Heat pumps come in a variety of options. Okay, there are ground source or geothermal heat pumps that leverage constant temperatures underground. Cold source heat pumps can move cold air into heat at colder temperatures. There are ductless systems. There's lots of options here. And really, when it comes to heat pumps, a lot of it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to save money? Are you trying to reduce your emissions? Are you addressing comfort? As an example, those ductless little units can sometimes be a really good solution. Maybe you have a room over the garage that never gets as warm or cool as you'd like. A ductless zone unit might be a terrific solution there. Right now in Wisconsin, a lot of people are installing a heat pump to replace their central air conditioner. So it's more efficient at cooling and it can do some of the heating for their house. And then they're keeping their furnace for the coldest days. It means they're using less natural gas to heat their house. And that option seems like the math works out pretty well in a lot of cases. There is, and again, you'll get this and the links will be in there. Focus on Energy has a nice consumer guide to heat pumps. The other thing I should say about heat pumps is there are also heat pump water heaters. So we're just thinking about how to make all of these appliances a lot more efficient. The last appliance I want to talk about a little bit is induction cooktops. So there's a growing body of literature about the health risks associated with gas stoves in kitchens. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You're burning a fossil fuel in the room that your family probably spends the most time in. There's a potential for methane leaks, and there are like a number of public health studies now saying that the correlation of cooking with gas and childhood asthma seems quite strong. So, but if you are an amazing cook, you like how responsive gas is, and kind of traditional electric stoves seem unthinkable to you. Well, the option that we're trying to get folks to pay more attention to now is induction stoves. So an induction stove is much more like cooking on gas because it's instant on and off, but you're not burning fossil fuels in your kitchen. And the other advantage is the surface doesn't heat up. So the way induction stoves work is when you turn a burner on, it stays cool until there is a metal pan connecting to it, and then that magnetism heats up the pan, kind of thing. So it's not heating up bigger areas, which is actually, I have an induction stove, not because I'm an amazing cook, but I have an induction stove. And my favorite thing about it is this. So this is a Rewiring America graphic about stoves. When you cook on a gas stove, about 40% of the heat, so I'm over on the right side now on the mostly melted ice cream, 40% of the heat that is generated by the stove goes into the pan. The other 60% goes into the kitchen. And even a traditional electric stove, 26% of the heat goes into the room. But when you cook on induction, only 10% of the heat is in the room, 90% is in the pan. And this is my favorite thing about cooking on induction, is that in the summer when we have a ton of vegetables that I could be cooking in the kitchen, it is so much more pleasant to cook now that we've got an induction stove. And it's maybe a good example of a case where lots of times there are, we see financial benefits from these changes, but you also see like comfort benefits. Probably my whole family is happier that I'm not so cranky when I cook, that it's really hot in our kitchen. So that was a lot. And one of the things you're probably thinking is, well, sure, that's all sounds really good, but how would we pay for that? How do we make the math work on doing some of those upgrades? So I want to spend a little bit of time on that, and then we'll talk a little bit about how you can sort through this on the Focus website. So in terms of things we talk about, if you've heard me talk about this before, you've heard me talk about the federal tax credits that passed made certain. Well, the federal government passed a new budget bill. Now all of those federal tax credits end at the end of this year. I'm going on to buy an electric vehicle and I'm going to get that credit. You only have 7 to get it. And I put here, and so there is still information on our website about the tax credits. Notice though that there's this big box about important update. These are ending sooner, and so we've updated things to make that all current. The other thing I want to say about this is, because those credits are ending in December, if you haven't started yet, if you're listening to me and you're thinking, yeah, we should get an energy audit. If there is a vendor who would say to you, oh, we can get you an audit and get everything installed before the deadline, I would ask a lot of questions at this point. I mean, the tax credit deadline is coming pretty fast, and the vendors I've talked to are really busy trying to get projects done. They're not sure they can take on a lot more work. So this is a moment where you need to be a really savvy consumer if you're counting on the tax credits. The good news is, though, the tax credits were sort of icing on the cake for all of us. There are more options than the tax credits. And one of the really exciting options is the home energy rebates. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time telling you about the home energy rebates. The home energy rebates are federal funding that's coming through Focus on Energy, our statewide efficiency program. And the incentives are based on household income versus area median income, which in Wisconsin is interpreted to be county median income. So the incentives are based on income levels, household size, what you're doing. We'll get into that a bit more. In addition to that, there are the regular Focus on Energy incentives. So Focus on Energy is our statewide energy efficiency and renewable energy program. It's funded through our utility bills. So you're eligible if your gas or utility or your electric utility pays into the program. All of the investor-owned utilities pay in, many of the municipal electric co-ops, and some of the rural cooperatives pay in. And we'll talk about how you can figure that out. And then there's also a low-income weatherization assistance program that's a state program funded by the federal government that provides free home energy upgrades to households that meet their income requirements, which is a statewide requirement, 60% of state median income kind of thing. So there are several layers of programs that can provide things. I think I want to really focus on the home energy rebates because they've just rolled out in the last year and folks are less aware of them, and there's a lot of good stuff here. So there are two sets of home energy rebates. There is a homes program that's focused on making your whole house energy efficient. And then there's a HERE program that's really focused on electrification. And this is a picture of the Focus website. These home energy rebates are front and center when you go to the Focus website. Wisconsin received about $150 million for these two programs, and essentially they will be available until the funding runs out. The experts think that's 2 to 3 years kind of thing. So there's definitely time to get an audit and get this all figured out. Let's talk about each of those programs a little bit. So the homes program is really trying to do whole house improvements to both single family and multifamily buildings. And everyone is eligible, and depending on how much energy you save, you get higher incentives. So the way this process works is you use the Focus website to verify your income. You find a contractor, they do an energy assessment, then you implement things from the assessment to achieve the savings level, and you earn the incentives and everything gets done. So let me just show you like how that works a little bit. So to qualify for these incentives, you have to do upgrades that cut your energy costs by at least 20%. So if you cut your energy costs, let's say the audit says we can cut them by 24%. So then it depends on your income level. So if you are lower income, you get a higher incentive. It'll cover 100% of the cost of the measures up to $5,000. If you're middle income, it'll cover slightly less of the cost. And if you're high income, it'll cover a little bit less of the cost. Notice here too that these work for multifamily. So landlord, and in that case, it's not the landlord's income that matters, it's the tenants. In a fourplex, a landlord could use this program to do upgrades that cut everyone's energy bills. And again, the first step in this program is the energy audit, and we'll talk about how you can layer this with Focus on Energy. The other program is about electrification. So part of how we get to climate goals is increasingly we want our homes to be all electric, all of our buildings, all of our vehicles, instead of burning fossil fuels. And so this program is oriented to help households replace, to install heat pumps and heat pump water heaters and induction stoves, as well as the electrical wiring upgrades that are sometimes required. The thing about this program is where the other program had an option for high-income households, this one does not. If your income is over 150% of county median income, then you don't get these incentives. And so this one is a little bit more. So the first one, remember, was sort of what's the total impact. You do a bunch of insulation and install a heat pump, and your energy usage goes down by 20%. Here it's more specific things you do, and you can earn incentives on those specific things. And some of them work in new construction and some don't. And again, there's a process here where you do an income qualification, and then you pick a contractor, and there's equipment installation. The thing that's happening with the HERE program is that those discounts, the discounts we're talking about here, come off the purchase price. So you pay less to the contractor, and they get the kind of the difference from Focus on Energy there. So that's kind of a nice feature of the HERE program in all of this. The other thing that is important to know here is you can layer the funding. So if, for example, you did an energy audit and it prompted you to add insulation and air sealing in your home, potentially you can get a home's federal rebate and also Focus on Energy incentives for those insulation. Now, the sum of those incentives can never be more than the total cost you paid, of course, but you can layer things together. Similarly, maybe you I talked to someone the other day who just purchased a really old home, like think, 100+ years old, and there's a bunch of things to do. If you start with an audit, you could do some electrical upgrades that are part of the HERE program. You could do some different things. You can't get federal money for the same product from both categories. So you could pay for the heat pump under HERE, the insulation and air sealing under homes, and still get Focus on Energy incentives too. And really the key to making sense of all of that is your contractor. That contractor who came from the Focus on Energy list, who did the audit, is really critical to making that all, helping you make sense of that. But those are a lot of pieces. And so where do you start in this? And this is, I'm a little bit of an energy geek, but when Focus on Energy launched this tool, I was super excited. So they have a tool that sometimes they call it the Residential Rebate Finder, sometimes they call it Get Started. But we're going to go over there and I'm going to show you this really cool tool that they've got now. And Amy, if we didn't switch to my website, the website, you should let me know, but I think we did. So on the Focus, okay, okay, on the Focus website, and let's just go back to the front of the website. So on the front of the website, there's a Get Started button up here and a Residential Rebate Finder. Both of those are going to take you to this tool. In the tool, say I'm a homeowner. Let's say you live in Madison, the household of 3 people. Let's just put 55,000 in there, and then it's going to ask you your utilities, because remember the Focus programs are utility specific. So you put that information in there and hit search. And it's going to give you this list of all the things you're eligible for. Now, I intentionally put a lower household income here so that I would get, so my list would start out with the Weatherization Assistance Program. So remember, this is the program that if you're eligible, you get free things. It's tied to a utility bill assistance program. If I hit learn more here, it's going to pop me over to a window that explains that program and gives me information about how to apply and all of those things. So a couple of things to orient you to this. First, it's right now giving me, and it's a pretty big list here, it's given me this long list of all the things that this household is eligible for. I can pick a certain category here. Maybe my water heater just broke. So I can pick water heating, and now it's just going to show me the things specific to water heating. The other thing I want to show you is on these listings. So there's a lot of information here. First up at the top, it's telling me what kind of an opportunity it is. This is an instant discount, which means that if I buy qualifying equipment from a participating vendor, if I go over here and learn more about this and learn how to do this, then okay, then essentially they're going to take that $200 right off the purchase price. I'm not going to have to send in my rebate to Focus and wait for the money back. I'm going to get an instant discount. And that's from Focus on Energy, it tells us here. Whereas down here, this is a rebate and it's federal. So this is part of the credits that we looked at that are home energy improvements. And it also shows us what are tax credits. There is a tax credit available for a heat pump water heater right now. And again, it'll take you to more information about the tax credits. So like I am a huge fan of this new listing thing because it lets you play with all of the opportunities and understand in one spot what are the things I could do. And so if I go back up here and just let's reset the form, because if I don't do that, it's gonna, let's put everything that I'm only going to change one thing. I'm going to make this still a household of 3, but now I'm going to say the income is $100,000. And we're still going to have those same, just so you see now when I do the search, some of those, so those things about weatherization, this household isn't qualified for those things anymore. So there's other, but still a bunch of opportunities here that you can learn about, click through on. And again, there are the federal rebates, there are the federal tax credits, all available here. So this is like a really slick tool to help you make sense of what those opportunities are, kind of thing. The other thing, just because I mentioned this earlier, if you go to the Focus Energy Rebates page, one of the things that under each page, maybe it's under here, they will like, so there's the whole thing about how you apply to verify your income, but then they have a find a contractor tool too, where you can put in your zip code and see who are the contractors in my area of the state who are offering. This is probably energy, like I think it defaults to showing me who does energy assessments, kind of thing. So a lot of really good resources there on the Focus on Energy page in terms of helping you get your arms around these things. And with that, I want to open it up for questions. I think I'll stop sharing so that, yeah, I'll stop sharing so that it's like easier, maybe.
Kathy, that
Just see.
was, oh my gosh, I was writing notes the whole time. I'm so excited. And I sent it to a friend of ours who's actually doing a flip on a house. So I'm really excited about that. So somebody asked Kathy if they have a household income, they're retired, do they use the net from their pension plus Social Security or the gross from their pension plus Social Security? Do you know the answer to that?
So it's gonna, so the answer is you should look at those. There's a form there and there is a PDF that tells you what to do. It's gross income. It's not net, it's gross. So, but there's some like very official rules. Again, think about the home energy rebates, that's federal funding. So like it comes with a stockpile of rules about how every state had to do this. So yeah.
That's all the questions that we have. Oh, and you already covered the qualified list of contractors that someone could find. And I just encourage people to reach out to their own counties because we know we're all over the state of Wisconsin now. And you were so kind to just share this session with us today. I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Just gonna double check. Nope, no more questions. So Everyone, this session is being recorded and Kathy is willing to share the slide deck. And so I will send those links out after the session to everyone so that you have it, because we know this is such valuable information to have. And for your pre-planning as well. I mean, maybe you're not looking to do it now, but maybe you can start saving up to do some of these things in the future. So fantastic, Kathy. I so appreciate
Yeah,
your time
definitely.
again.
It's always fun. Good luck, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic day.
Bye.